December 26, 1900. The Atlantic Ocean was merciless. A supply ship named the Hesperus battles against the towering, ice-cold waves, steering toward one of the most isolated places on Earth, the Flannan Isles. On this lonely, jagged rock stands a brand-new, state-of-the-art lighthouse. It was built to guide sailors through the deadliest waters in the world. But for the past 11 days, the lighthouse has been completely dark. No signal, no warning, just a terrifying black void in the ocean as the ship docks. Captain James Harvey blows the whistle and fires a warning flare. He expects the 3 lighthouse keepers to run down the stone steps, waving and welcoming them. But there is only silence. The wind howls. The island feels dead that the relief keeper named Joseph Moore steps onto the rocky shore alone. His heart pounds with dread. He climbs the steep, slippery cliff and opens the heavy iron door of the lighthouse. What he discovered inside would baffle historians, scientists, and detectives for more than a century. 3 men had vanished. But the way they vanished defied all logic. Joseph Moore stepped into the kitchen. The air was cold, but the scene looked as if time had frozen in an instant. On the wooden table, a meal was left untouched. A plate of mutton, potatoes, and bread sat there, rotting. A chair was knocked over onto the floor, suggesting that someone had stood up in a violent, desperate hurry. Moore called out their names. James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, Donald MacArthur. Only his own echo answered that he checked the fireplace. The ashes were cold. He checked the grand-grandfather clock in the hallway. It had completely stopped. Moore then ran up the spiral staircase to the lantern room. The lamps were clean, filled with oil, and ready to be lit. Everything was in perfect working order. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, and no evidence of a pirate attack or a break-in. The front door was locked securely from the inside. This was the first impossible puzzle. If the men left the lighthouse together, how did they lock the heavy door from the inside? Looking closer, Moore noticed something even more bizarre. 2 sets of heavy oilskin raincoats were missing from the rack. But the 3rd raincoat belonged to Donald MacArthur. MacArthur was a veteran sailor, known for his strict discipline. He would never, under any circumstances, step out into a brutal Atlantic winter storm without his coat. Yet he did. The investigation began immediately. Authorities found the lighthouse logbook written by Thomas Marshall. The final entries were not just strange, they were deeply disturbing. On December 12th, Marshall wrote, "Severe gale. Heavy gales, more severe than any I have ever seen in my life." He then noted that James Duckett, a tough, hardened Scotsman, was unusually quiet. And Donald MacArthur, a fierce ex-soldier who had survived countless battles, was sitting in the corner, crying. Think about that. These were iron men, chosen for this job because of their mental strength. What kind of storm could make veteran sailors weep and pray to God in absolute terror? The entry on December 13th was even shorter, storm still raging. All 3 men praying, and then came the final, chilling line on December 15th. Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all. When the investigators read these words, a cold sweat broke out among them. They checked the official naval weather reports from those exact dates, December 12th to December 15th. The records proved that there was no storm in the area. In fact, the weather around the Flannan Isles was completely calm. The sea was as flat as glass. The men were crying, praying, and screaming about a tempest that existed only in their minds. Or perhaps the storm wasn't made of wind and rain. Perhaps something else was outside that window. As news of the disappearance spread, the public began to whisper about madness. The isolation of a lighthouse can destroy a man's mind. For weeks, you see nothing but gray water, gray skies, and the same two faces. That a popular theory emerged. Did one of the keepers lose his mind? Some suspected Donald MacArthur, the man who left his raincoat behind. Did he suffer a sudden, violent psychotic break? Imagine the horror inside that locked tower. A man snaps, grabs a heavy iron tool, and attacks his two companions in the middle of the night. After throwing their bodies into the black ocean, realized what he had done, and leapt into the freezing waves himself. That it explained the overturned chair. It explained the panic. But it didn't explain why there was absolutely no blood found in the lighthouse. It didn't explain why the door was locked from the inside. And it didn't explain the fake entries in the logbook. If it wasn't madness, then investigators had to look outside, toward the terrifying cliffs of the island. When they walked down to the western landing platform, they found scenes of absolute destruction. A heavy iron railing was bent like a toothpick. A massive concrete block, weighing over a ton, had been ripped out of the ground and moved. Ropes were scattered everywhere. Something incredibly powerful had struck the island. The official report concluded that a freak event occurred. The Atlantic is famous for rogue waves, monolithic walls of water that rise out of nowhere, reaching up to 100 feet in height. The theory goes that on December 15th, Marshall and Duckett went down to the cliffs to secure the equipment. Suddenly, an enormous rogue wave struck the cliff, washing them away. MacArthur, watching from the window, saw his friends drowning. He panicked, ran out without his raincoat to save them, and a second wave took him too. It sounds logical. It is the most realistic answer. But the local fishermen of the Scottish coast refused to believe it. They knew the legends of the Flannan Isles. For centuries, locals believed the island was cursed, inhabited by phantom creatures and ancient spirits. Sailors whispered about giant sea monsters rising from the abyss, or phantom ghost ships that anchor in the dark, harvesting human souls. Even today, visitors to the island report hearing phantom whispers in the wind and a heavy, suffocating feeling of being watched by something unseen. More than a century has passed, and the mystery remains completely unsolved. No bodies were ever recovered. No clothing washed ashore. The three keepers of Flannan Isles vanished, leaving behind only an empty table, a stopped clock, and a terrifying riddle. Were they victims of a freak nature accident? Did they kill each other in a fit of isolated madness? Or did they encounter something in the dark Atlantic that modern science cannot explain? The lighthouse is now fully automated. No humans live on that lonely rock anymore. The mechanical light spins every night, cutting through the darkness, illuminating a mystery that will sleep in the deep ocean forever. What do you believe happened to the three keepers? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you love historical mysteries and sci-fi secrets, make sure to hit the subscribe button for Storyosphere. Turn on notifications, because our next journey into the unknown is coming very soon. Thank you for watching and stay curious.